Hello and welcome. This is an exciting night for me, and a little bit about why we're having tonight. I've written a book called Collinsville. I'll tell you a little bit about that. But in the book, I deal a little bit with human trafficking. And to be honest with you, it was just a topic I thought I would refer to for the book. But the more I began to research and study, the more that my heart broke. And the more that I realized right here in our backyard in Anaheim is girls trafficked every day. Kim Biddle, the video you just saw, is a dear friend of my husband and I. We've known Kim over 10 years. We've supported Saving Innocence. And I go to the gala every year, and I know it's happening. But when I wrote the book, and I realized that right here in my city, every day I drive by places that girls are trafficked and stuck, my eyes had to open. And so I reached out to Kim. I said, Kim, can you be here? And she happens to be out of town tonight, but let me introduce to you our guest tonight. But she was able to send Alan. And Alan, I'm so glad that you're here. And you are actually the Senior Vice President of Saving Innocence. So will you welcome with me Alan Smith to our panel tonight? And then, of course, we all know Eve's restaurant, and we enjoyed Eve. So thank you, Eve and Jody. We love you guys so much. And what you're doing with your heart, I don't know how much you want to share, but they're starting some food trucks with girls who have been trafficked, and they're working with these girls, and it's going to be right here. We're going to be hands-on, hopefully helping you and Jody with what you're doing. The food was amazing, and your hearts are even bigger. But from Eve and Jody, they introduced me to Ori. And Ori, your story touched my heart in a way that I don't even know if I was ready to go down that road. And tonight, as you share your story, I want to welcome you to our panel. So would you recognize with me Ori Freeman? And she is a human traffic survivor. So she knows firsthand the plight of human trafficking. And it is an honor to have with us, and this isn't something he normally does, so I'm so grateful that you took the time to be here with us. So we have Sergeant Juan Reveles, who is with us from the Anaheim PD. So we have a pretty stellar panel, and I thought instead of me trying to explain it, it would be better to have you guys explain it. So I think I'm going to have Alan, maybe we'll pass that to Juan for a minute, because I'm going to come back to you, Alan, and how we can really get involved with Saving Innocence. But I know, Juan, you and I were on the phone probably for 40 minutes, and I think I got 2 words in. This is a passionate man about a topic that we need to address. And so I want to start off, I'm going to let you guys do the talking, because I know, Ori, you guys kind of travel and talk a little bit together. But let's start off. I just kind of wrote a couple questions I wanted to ask you. First of all, tell us about trafficking here in Anaheim. Maybe, Juan, you want to start. What is that? Where was it? Where would we even notice it if we saw it? What does that mean?
You probably will not, because one of the things that, one of the problems I have with those billboards with chains and cages, right, help me. You've seen all those, the trafficking part, you're not going to see that. And therefore, when you're looking for that, when I see that I'm going to report human trafficking, you won't report it because you don't see it. That's not what it looks like here in Anaheim or Orange County. And so I want to kind of lay the groundwork and then let Ori go from there and what they're doing with the young girls, and then I would add on. But human trafficking is modern-day slavery. You heard that, right? You always hear that. It's not hyperbole. So the pimp and trafficker control every aspect of their life. What they do, what they wear, what services they're going to perform, where they're going to go, isolates them from family, right? And if you do not do that, meet my quota, follow my rules, this is what's going to happen to you. And that punishment runs the spectrum from physical, verbal abuse, psychological abuse, ice baths, right? And just whatever they can think of. And then at the very end of all that, then they also brand several of them. And that means they call it a pimp stamp. I am going to put my tattoo on you because you are my property now. So I get away from the legal definition, and I always do that and then ask, what part of that did you not get that it's modern day slavery? I own you. I take everything from your labor. And by the way, this is what you're going to do for me. Punishment, and now I'm going to brand you. So that's what human trafficking is. It looks very different as we run across the county, even within Anaheim. But you're absolutely right. Every city here has it. We just fortunate enough that in 2010, Anaheim decided to take the lead in dealing with this. And by 2014, decided this is bigger than Anaheim, and then made the decision to say, we are then going to lead a task force, a countywide task force to deal with this on a countywide level. that is where we're at. That's human trafficking. That's where Anaheim is at. That's the lead, and it's been very successful. Unfortunately, success means we're finding a lot of them. That's how much exists here. So,
Ori, let's go to you, beautiful woman. I heard a little bit of your story from Eve's event the other night, but let's start with you, your backstory. Let's take back a little bit and your home and why you felt this need, really lack of love that you said maybe that you had in your home, and walk us through your story.
Um, so it's really hard sometimes to kind of like, tell bits and pieces of what you want to share because it kind of gives people the perspective of what specifically someone would look like, a certain type of kid or this kid that comes from dysfunctional family. Um, and a lot of the things that I do, saving innocence, and with Orangewood, especially going into the schools and a lot of the centers, um, those are kids that were just like me. Although I didn't come from the best of homes. I was a very sheltered kid. I grew up in a church. My grandmother did not play about peppermints. Like my grandma was not playing with eating in church. And I just came from a very sheltered family. Me and my mom, she was a single mother. She adopted me out at 2 days old. I was born to a drug addicted mom that had me in prison. And I had a really kind of balanced family as far as like I had probation officers in my family, I had sheriffs in my family, and I also had, uncles and aunts that, had their own life experiences. But we didn't talk about that kind of stuff. We didn't talk about what happened when the street lights go off. Mom didn't talk to me about relationships and boys and, all those things that a young girl is gonna eventually find out. And at a very early age, I started to be molested by a family friend. And those were the conversations that I just didn't get to have with my mom. I think that from a perspective of not the survivor, but someone who's been through lots of therapy, of that those were conversations my mother was very uncomfortable with having. It was very uncomfortable of not being able to keep your child safe, right? And those are the conversations that we should have. And I just remember certain moments that were quiet the day we went to the hospital and, they did all the kits and everything, and it was just complete silence, and it was a slight hug, but nothing embracing and just saying that everything was going to be okay. And I think from that moment, a lot of times in my childhood, I lived with fear. At a very early age, and what we see in young girls, just like most of my survivor sisters, is that there's this cycle, there's this pattern of now feeling low self-esteem, feeling this guilt. I can honestly tell you 80% of the girls, and probably even higher than that, Juan and Alan, is that they have all been through some sort of sexual abuse. I have not yet seemed to meet one that hasn't experienced that. In the midst of all that, I just wasn't receiving, I think, like the right kind of attention. After being molested, and a lot of the things with just bullying, self-esteem, and figuring I was adopted, like figuring out where did I belong, all these insecurities. Yeah. I was a good athletic kid. Like I played every sport there was. I went to every single talent show, and believe me, if you handed me the mic, I would steal the show. And not one person, not my teacher, not my favorite math teacher, not my coach that spent so much time with me, not one person ever kneeled down to me and asked me, was I okay? Not one teacher ever, no one pointed their finger, but how did everyone miss the signs that something was going on with this kid? Not what I had done, but what has happened to this child, to where she's starting to, whether it's acting out, whether it's becoming very quiet, whether it's not being involved with sports and wanting to be laid back and not being very social. It was all these signs that so many people missed. And what ended up leading me to trafficking was the person that ended up molesting me inside in my life ended up not getting a lot of charges. And I don't blame anyone for that, and ended up coming home much earlier than what he was sentenced on a good terms. And he came to our doorstep. And for me as a kid, I still remember to this day, I was like peeking my head out the screen. I don't know why I was being nosy. And for me, my mother took too long to call law enforcement or someone. She didn't let him in the house. But for me, it was, I don't know, maybe she should have attacked him. I don't know. Be a mama bear or something. And I decided to run away. And a lot of times we see that with kids, and that's kind of the thing that always happens. I ran away. I was in poverty of need. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know my community the way, growing up in LA County and Orange County most of the time. I wasn't street smart at all. Didn't know the bus and didn't know how to get back home. I befriended someone that I was doing community service with at a local library, and she became my best friend. Someone that showed me how it felt to be secure, confident, to come from this good family and to know all these, just have these amazing experiences. And I trusted her. And when I ran away that night, she took me to just a local kind of house that everyone would kick it at, and sometimes drugs and stuff. And she said, "I'll be back for you." And by the time she came back, my trafficker, which is, we don't go into that much detail, which was more of a Romeo pimp, someone that was very caring and kind. And for the first time in my life, after being molested, after being raped, after going through some, bits and pieces of physical abuse with an aunt and things like that, and finding I was adopted, for the first time in my life at 11 years old, a male, a stranger, asked me, was I okay? Not the people that, that were the support in my life. Not the people that were supposed to protect me and love and care for me. A complete stranger asked me that. And so many times with our kids and, my sisters, it's that thing. It's the person that catches that kid at the right moment, at the right vulnerable moment. And I was in need of so many things. And I told that man my life story in 30 seconds, how I was adopted and how I've been raped and all these different things. And most of the time, they're predators. They come looking for these kids, or they send women, young girls, to look for them. He didn't have to. I fell right on his doorstep. And I was starting to be groomed by someone he already had, which pimps normally call it a stable. He already had someone in his stable. And she started to groom me about prostitution. And she didn't make it seem as if it was prostitution. She talked about being escort and, I take men on dates. And she had overheard the conversation I was talking about with him and, simply said, the things that you experienced, my stepdad molested me. My mama's boyfriends raped me. And it was comfortable because someone could understand what I was going through. And then when she told me, I said, well, what is escort? And she said prostitution. I said, nope, not a career choice that I want to do. And I remember this beautiful woman, Samoan, Caucasian, just beautiful, said you would never have to do something like that. And he said he was taking her to work. I got in the backseat of the car. And I still remember to this day, my mother used to keep me in Target. Target was our thing. We love Target. And she used to buy me the lace panties that would have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday on them. And I still had ponytails in my hair. I hated these ballies she used to put in my hair and ribbons and stuff. And I had the panties on. I had my school uniform. I took that off, kept my underwear on, had a wife beater and plaid shorts. And I was put out there. And I was drugged by my hair like if a 9-year-old kid would be upset and drag their backpack. And that man only beat me for that first night. But for 4 years of my life, from 11 to 15 years old, after being branded at 12 years old, was consistently day and night. I mean, Juan couldn't have said it no better, was every single day waking up and wanting to figure out if I wanted to even live or even if I wanted to survive this day.
So you felt trapped. I mean, you felt stuck. There wasn't an out. There wasn't an option. There wasn't a plan B, because right now, was it kind of almost a mixed bag of emotions where you felt love, so you had a felt need that was illegitimately being met? And so tell me about that. How did you process that?
You don't process it. And then what makes it harder, what made it so hard for me is that being 11 years old, people would never understand the feeling of walking in a McDonald's at 6, 7 in the morning, coming from being raped 10 to 15 times a night on your back. Walking into a donut shop while men and women are going to their careers and going to their jobs and doing their daily routine. And people look at you with disgust. And how to wrap your head around and process that. How do these people not know that I'm a kid? How do these people not know that I'm screaming and yelling for help? People grabbing their daughters and their kids away from you because they're afraid. And that was the process of my thinking of, for a very long time, for 4 years, it was nobody cared because it wasn't anyone else's problem. That was my process. And for a long time, I shut law enforcement out. I shut services out because why now? Oh, now you want to help me? Now I'm the victim now? And it was very hard for me to accept that when I didn't have that support. And honestly, it was just, my process was just getting through the next day. Your everyday life is surviving the next day.
So that was a 4-year period, Ori? Then what was your breakthrough? What was your breakthrough where you just said, this is enough?
You know, God has always carried me through the way in that. And you lose him along the way. You feel like you do, and he's always there. And I don't take, being not just a survivor, but, being a case manager and working in Saving Innocence in Orangewood, I don't take the word rescue lightly. And I'm going to put him on the spot because he's out there. Jim Carson, the man sitting next to Christy Fox, who I love as well, rescued me, saved my life. Because the first time in my life at 15 years old, this was a man that seen me not only as a victim, but this hurt kid. Someone that didn't take anything personal. Someone that taught me how to lace my own boots up and fight because no one was going to fight for me. Someone that was stable, someone that was consistent, and no matter how many times I said very mean things to him, he never took it personal. Someone who at 22 years old is still in my life consistently, that'll probably walk me down the aisle one day. And one last thing, it didn't stop there with the help of Orangewood, and then now, this is my boss up here, actually. He's the bomb. Working with Save Innocence, just with survivors in period, like, it's a lifetime commitment, and it's a long line of support. And that's why I'm so grateful to be a part of Save Innocence, to be there, to, be working there, and just to be a part of Orangewood, because it's about support. It's so much more than that. You can't do it by yourself. These kids cannot do it by themselves. They need someone to fight with them and fight for them because they don't know how.
Yeah. So Juan, let's pick up a little bit with you for a minute. Tell us about our city. We're here, we're Yorba Linda, we're Anaheim Hills, we're Anaheim, is this real? I mean, come on. I mean, really, are there a lot of Oris out there and we're just not seeing them?
Yes, I'll give you 2016, about 55% of the victims we found were juveniles. Our two youngest ones have been 13 years old. You're talking 8th grade, right? And so Orange County is the demand. 9 out of 10 for my task force, 9 out of 10 come from outside. Countywide, 8 out of 10. So we have a demand problem here in Orange County.
You told me that they'll pay more in Orange County.
Of course, it's seen as an affluent county, and rightly so, as you look at San Bernardino, Riverside, you name it. And so we're dealing with that issue as well. The reason I said, let me say something real quick, and then Ori will pick it up from there, because what else do I need to tell you, right, as law enforcement? I mean, I'm preaching to the choir here. Excuse the pun here, but what, a church. But we give this presentation to a lot of different groups, to the point now that, when I was telling you that Anaheim took on the lead to do these things, well, we realize we're so far ahead in Orange County as LA is coming on. Their task force is probably 2 years into it, LA County and all that other stuff. We just went with Ori to a county up north and realized that whatever girls are missing from Orange County, right, they got to take them away somewhere else. The reason we're not figuring out where they're at is realize they're not ready and they're not looking for them. So therefore, we get to go, and all this is absolute support from the very top of the city, the chief, all the way down that, okay, let's send our manpower and resources to go train, because there is a lot of Oris out there, a lot. And when she said these guys are predators, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the pyramid, they're masters at it. They're just evil about it, right? Driving around, oh, it's cold. You know what? Here's this hamburger that I happen to have, right? Food, shelter, and come with us. They call him daddy. The group of them is, they got folks. Their fellow sex worker is their wifey. Home is wherever he's at. Daddy, folks, wifey, home. This is by design, and therefore you find a 11, 12-year-old that's missing all of that, and they do that, and we know that they are like that because my guys happen to be 15, 14, 15 on the internet. So these guys prey upon us. That's the best thing that can happen. The fun part about my job is they think they're going to pick up a 12-year-old Ori, and it's 10 of us. I think the youngest is maybe 35 to 50-something, right? So then, but that's how you realize how much predators they are. Internet, the street, everything like that. So this awareness part, because I was talking to somebody, you think everybody knows it, but they don't. Once they do, it's always, now what are you going to do? It's that bad. What are you going to do within, are you going to volunteer within your church? What is it that you're going to get behind in Orange County? It is an entire Orange County effort to deal with so the Oris are found and rescued.
Well, I know, Juan, there's so much that you do, and we talked about maybe having you come back and do your full presentation. I think it would be wonderful to do that. But I do want to talk a minute with you, Alan. And again, I love Kim. My husband and I have known Kim Biddle for over 10 years, and what she's done with Saving Innocence is amazing. And I don't know that we've had the privilege of meeting, but it's so good to meet you. Talk to us a little bit about what we can do. I saw your backpack, and I know that's a big, the whole backpack. I know you guys do that at Orangewood as well, too, I believe. But how can we get involved here tonight? You have a table out there, and after I share a little bit, a few minutes from now, I want us to get involved as individuals, as a church, as a community. So talk to us a little bit what you do at Saving Innocence and how we can get involved with you.
Great, thank you. And then thank you for having this and involving all of us. It's important. We need more of these kinds of things. And just a quick follow-up on the online and the predator concept. I heard recently that the FBI estimated there's some 900,000 predators online. So first thing you can do is start monitoring your kids' social media.
That's good.
Do that. If you do nothing else, do that.
That's good.
And the officer may have a different stat, but I've heard as many as 10,000 children, minors, are being trafficked here in Southern California. So that it's continues to be the fastest growing crime in the world. 35% more reported cases this year than last year. So it continues to grow.
Well, let me just say something. All of you remember, do you remember when you were 11 and 12 and 13 years old and you just felt odd? You know, you just did, and you can see why they really just go after that demographic. They're not strong enough to stand up for themselves, especially if they don't have a home to really feel loved in. So I just want to do another shout out. When you have kids, don't assume just because they're in a good home, in a church, that's Ori's story. You know, that you've got to be monitoring. That's your responsibility. Check on these kids. Watch who their friends are. Who are they hanging with? My mom used to spy on me. She'd get in the car and she would follow me. And my mother was a woman who was abused and molested. So she gets it. She understood that. And I appreciated that. So I just want to shout out moms and dads. Man, watch your kids.
Yeah. So I have the privilege of working with Saving Innocence, a nonprofit founded in 2010 by your good friend Kim. And Ori now and I get to work together in the same location. We have the beautiful privilege of intersecting with these minors. We focus on minors involved in sex trafficking as opposed to a different kind of trafficking. We're contracted by LA County to respond within 90 minutes anywhere within LA County when one of these children is recovered. We've got a team of amazing rock star case manager gals who, you know, one at a time, they take turns being on call, and they go and they show up within 90 minutes anywhere on the scene. And we step into that relationship and step into that hurt and that pain and that darkness, and for as long as it takes. And you know, I just got a text right a minute ago. One of our first clients of about 6 years ago just moved into her new apartment and doesn't have the stuff she needs in a new apartment with 2 little kids. And so we're, you know, helping her with those kinds of things. But it's immediate crisis stabilization, coming alongside her, getting her everything she needs. Walking through the complex legal system and medical issues and all those kinds of things. In the middle of it, there's a lot of fun stuff too. We're celebrating birthdays and graduation parties and baby showers and all those kinds of things. We love it when the biggest problem that one of our clients has is she's been plugged back into school, she's back on track, and she was invited to the prom for the first time, and she needs help with her hair and get a dress. And of course, our gals just eat that up and swarm around her and get her prom dress and her hair and her makeup. In fact, tomorrow, I think, or the next day, one of our gals is taking one of her clients on a college tour on the East Coast.
Oh, wow.
Now, for a traditional kid in a traditional family, like my kids and probably like a lot of your kids, for them to graduate high school, for like my kid to graduate high school, both of them graduate, it's a big deal. We send out the announcements and presents, and there's a party and all that kind of thing. For one of these kids to get plugged back into school, get to the place where they've regained that strength and confidence and graduate high school with their class, you could, here in church, we could call that a miracle.
Wow.
And so we get the privilege of walking with those kids through all of those ups and downs, and I'm honored to do it. And so I know the focus here is in Orange County. We're based in LA County, but by the nature of this crime, kids are being moved around everywhere. So it very well could be Orange County kids that we're intersecting with, or kids from San Diego or Santa Barbara or wherever. It just so happens that LA County picks up when they pick up the phone and they call us. And so we could very well be intersecting with kids that you guys would be in touch with. And then how to get involved. Out in the lobby out there, there is a table. There's a number of things you can take. I'd love for you to take those little cards that talk about what we do. I know this isn't a fundraising meeting, but if you want to get involved financially, there's a little way to do that on a card and an envelope out there. There is an example of a backpack that we do. When our gals show up in the middle of the night, typically with one of these kids, there's a backpack full of a change of clothes. Whatever clothes they might be wearing probably isn't comfortable or appropriate in that moment, so we have a change of comfortable clothing, kind of sweats, oversized, comfortable something, some hygiene items, some food. Like you mentioned, the hierarchy of needs. We'll show up with food and feed them because they're probably hungry. There's a stuffed animal, a coloring book. From the very first moments, we want to remind this child that she's a child.
Yeah.
And she holds on to that stuffed animal and begins to pass some of the time as she doesn't oftentimes really know what's happening around her. Mm-hmm. And we come alongside her and help interpret all that's going on.
Yeah. Wow. I just want to thank you guys.
So-
Yeah, Juan.
You brought up a memory when you said about celebrating events for them a while back. So my task force, now we have a female. Yay. They're like unicorn in task forces, females, just so you know. Well, they're a very small percentage in police work, and let alone work these hours, right? So all guys, and we arrested this guy that was really targeting juveniles from San Jose, but he made a mistake. He came to Orange County, and he is going away for a very long time. But she had... One of the victims has spent her 18th birthday. That's how they brought her over here. Promised her to take her to Disneyland, and he did not. And that was the final straw for her, right? So when we brought her over, one of my guys had an idea: have her an 18th birthday cake at the substation. Wait, it gets bad because it's guys not thinking further ahead. So we brought her in. Great idea, great plan, and we do the happy birthday. And she just breaks down and just loses it and takes off and goes to the restroom. And was there for a while. Now, I should have known, having 3 daughters, that it was way too much for her all at once. We were trying to do something nice, and it's been a learning process for us. The other part is always have to remember what your memories of the Disneyland fireworks are, right? Brings it all, you were there. Okay, imagine where they're being trafficked around Disneyland, what that means to them as we have conversations with them. So just the fact that, advocates and people that work with them take them to Disneyland to create a different memory for them, a simple little thing like that, makes a huge difference to them because the fireworks mean something to them.
Wow. Wow.
Just a quick final
Yeah,
up.
no, please.
A lot of what we do, and this is kind of a fun for me anyway, we do walk through all these different things that they're called into. A lot of times our kids will get subpoenaed to go testify in court on a regular basis when they make an arrest. The law enforcement love our work with our kids because they know, and a sheriff told me this, if we don't have a healthy witness, we don't have a case. And they want to put these guys away. So our work, spending time with these kids, gets them ready to testify. So this one case recently, this minor said, all the stuff she needed to say to completely incriminate her pimp, who's not sitting very far away, and he's looking at her, and his partners are behind him looking at her. She knows that she's going to be in trouble for doing that. Well, she had regained such courage and a voice She now looks him in the eye when he's done and says, "You don't own me anymore." And she gets up and walks away. How awesome is that? And the DA said because of her testimony, he was likely going away for life, and it turns out he got 2 life sentences, so we felt good about that.
Amen. Well, I want to thank you guys. I want to say a prayer for you because what you do is changing lives. This church is very active in our city, and whatever we can do to partner with you. We're at the gala every year, I think, except last year, babe, we had something. But we love Saving Innocence. That's why I invited you to come, because I know Kim personally, and I know what she's doing. And Juan, it's been a privilege to know you. But if you would just in your hearts right now join me praying for these men, praying for our government officials, because I am gutsy enough to believe we can make a difference. I'm gutsy enough to really believe that if you and I stand up and speak out, that we can make a difference for all the Oris of the world that need our hug and our love. Amen. Would you join me in prayer? God, I just want to pray right now for Ori. God, thank you. Thank you that you have shown her real love through you. God, thank you that this little girl that was rejected in every way possible can move into real, genuine love. And so, Father, you are a good God that does love. And I thank you for the redemption story of this beautiful woman that's changing lives every day. God, I thank you for Alan and Kim and Saving Innocence. I pray protection. I pray financial resources would come their way. They're making a difference. They're giving their life to change lives. So I pray for the organization and the individuals. And God, I thank you for Sergeant Juan. Father, he came. He didn't know anything about this meeting, and yet he came because he has a passion. I pray that he will just stay focused. And Father, that you would give him the strength that he needs to make that which is wrong right. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.